Here in Cableland. We're here today from the Faith Gospel Women's Fellowship, and we have decided to speak on some of the issues that women are having, and we would just like to bring some of them to the forefront, to discuss them, to show parts of the Bible, how as women we can deal with certain issues. But ultimately we're to remember that when we take everything to God in prayer, He can help us out of all the issues that we're having. This afternoon I have with me Sister Marlene Denton and Sister Paulette Samuels. So we welcome you today. Alright, what we're going to be talking about, as I said before, was some of the issues that women face, whether it be an unsaved, a saved woman, a married or a single woman. What are some of the things that they face? How can we help these women? Because some of the times, as women, we might have the issues, but hearing a different suggestion or a different idea can help us to really deal with our situation differently. So I went around in my office and I asked some of the ladies there, what are some of the issues that you face as women? And some things came up like financial issues, emotional issues, self-esteem issues. Just as a woman, some of us, we want to run down and, boy, we're too fat, or we're too slim, or we're too black, or we're too brown, something. All of those things came up. So I just want for us to just discuss that today and to see how we can just help someone out there to alleviate their problems. So Sister Denton, what are some of the issues as a woman or women that you have socialized with face?
All right. Good evening, listeners and viewers. As a Christian, as a nurse who works in maternity, I've met thousands of women mostly who are mothers, but I've also met children and young women who are still attending school. And there are many issues that women have. And part of the problem is that because society is what society expects of us. What they say that we ought to be, and because a lot of times they've put us in a mold, women are afraid to break out of the mold. So I have seen where women a lot of time have, one of the big problem is emotional problems. Women who grew up not feeling love, not having fathers, not having mothers who tell them I love you, and so they grow up with all sort of feeling of not being loved, and that lead to other problems. I've seen women with financial issues as well, and a lot of the people I meet on a daily basis who end up pregnant, a lot of them is because of their issues. It might be financial, it might be emotional, but these situations drive women into getting involved before they're ready, before they're ready to have children. And a lot of times women end up having children to fill some of the needs they have.
But do you think that, okay, we go back to the whole issue of filling that gap in your heart, that you feel like, okay, then I need a man to come now and comfort me, so I go and have sex and I get pregnant. But you also mentioned that it might not have been the right time, So do you think that having to take on a child in a situation where you felt like there was something inside of your heart that they needed to feel, do you think that taking on a child really is going to feel that? Because yes, a child would bring joy when you see them running up and down and laughing and playing and carrying on, but why do you feel that women fall for men in their situation when they feel so broken hearted, but yet still bring a child into a situation like that, and may even sometimes take it out on the child in the future, if that part of the gap isn't filled?
Well, one of the things is that I know for certainty that having a child in that situation is not going to change your situation.
Exactly.
It's not going to change the way you feel about yourself. It's not going to change your emotional or financial situation. As a matter of fact, it might make it worse. Because when you have a child that is now expecting from you, and you have to give this child is not responsible for the situation in which they were born. You have to give them the love, and you have to give them the financial care that they need. How are you going to give what you don't have to give? And so a lot of times we make our situation worse by getting into those kind of relationships.
Sister Paulette, Samuel, what's your take on a situation like that? I know you've been around many young ladies in the schools, home, teaching, everywhere, church. What have your experience been with women who have been broken hearted and use it to go and maybe go and get pregnant or whatever medium they use?
Okay, as a retired teacher, having done 37 years in the classroom, I have had to do with many of these women because what Sister Denton says here about having children at an early age, I realize that many of these women, they become single parents because the men are nowhere around, because sometimes having fallen for this man and this man is not able to stand up to his responsibilities, the woman usually move on to another man, you know, and she end up having more than one child. So you find that these women have multiple children and they are not able to take care of them, and so they are further broken from the situation, and so many of them find themselves doing things that they would not have done otherwise. You know, some of them even allow other persons to draw them into a net, you know, of trafficking drugs, you know, because when they look at the children and know that these children have to go to school, they need food, they need clothes, and these persons come to them and say to them, this is the way out. Sometimes they don't even think before doing it because the thing that is more is on their minds, the children to go to school. How am I going to survive?
Yes.
And so you find them into this net. You know, some even sell their bodies, not wanting really to do it, you know, but because of having the children to feed and to take care of, they find themselves in these situations. So we have a number of these women in the society today, single parents.
But as Christian women, we go out and we evangelize. Say for example, we get up into a situation now where we're going to say a woman, we don't know that she's a prostitute, we don't know anything about her, we try to evangelize, and then when we talk and dig deep, we find out that really this is our problem. She's a prostitute, she's doing this because she have 6 kids from 6 different fathers or whatever the situation is. How do we bring Jesus to her? How do we, you know, because for me, I have even tried to evangelize to girls in the offices and around me, and really they don't, it's just maybe the lack of faith, that they don't believe that Jesus can really break through these situations. And even in the Bible it says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. People really don't believe in these things, that boy, I sit down with a bundle of situations, a whole barrage of things. They don't believe that Jesus can really break through this and melt it away. Sister Denton, what's your take?
Well, I can definitely tell them that they're wrong. I have had situations in my early life, and had I not given my life to Christ, I'm sure I would be a broken woman, maybe with several children, or even if not with several children, with relationships that you think is going to work, because every other guy comes tell you he loves you, and he tells you he's going to stay with you forever, and you find out what a lot of times, once the relationship gets intimate and this guy get to know you, that's it, he's gone. And you have to get to the point where you believe that God is bigger than you are.
Yes.
God makes the world. That means if he says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I know that for a fact. I was in a situation where I was in a relationship and it wasn't working, and had it not been for giving up my life totally to God, I would have been a wreck just now. So I know that if you walk out in faith, sometimes it's hard. It's going to be hard. You're going to have people telling you that you're going to fail. You're going to have people saying that this is not going to go anywhere. And especially when you do not have the support of families and friends, especially when they, a lot of times parents say, but I've been telling you, you should not be going that path, and everybody throw you out. But one good thing is that Jesus never throw you out. He's always there to receive you. And your situation may be hard when you start, but if you trust him and stay with him, you'll definitely come out as pure gold.
True. Sister Paulette, we're still on that same issue, because the first answer I got when I asked the question, what are some of the issues as women you face? The first thing was relationship. There was this young lady who said to me, I believe that I don't pick the right men. I don't choose the right men, because it's either I'm looking for tall, dark and handsome, or I'm looking for fair, thick-bodied, toned, this, that. Nobody says to me, I'm looking for somebody with strong Christian principles. I'm looking for honest. And even if they know these things, if you were to ask them to put it on a list, you will see these things popping up. But at a verbal communication with them, I hardly ever hear it, or if it is even being said, it is said after the handsome, it is said after the sexy body. Nobody, really says it. And I wonder, as women, what you are in open age, Sister Paulette. Okay. You must went through the phases of who you like and how you came to your husband. Help us now.
Okay. Well, most women, they are looking first at the outward. You understand? The macho guy.
Yes.
The body, the looks and all of.
God, you know me more than even now I know myself. You know who is going to complement all of the attributes and my characteristics.
Okay.
What is going to work?
Because of what society dictates to us. And peer pressure. That is it, Many persons, society is saying to us. Because as you rightfully say that, what is ugly?
Yes.
That is what society take this person. We are matching persons. And say this one is pretty and that one is ugly. And so we look to society because we want society to really say to us, this is how you ought to go. You understand? And so our peers too. Our peers will pressure us by saying, man, look at what you have chosen and look at what I have chosen. And so because of pressure, we fall for these things.
Well, I understand perfectly, because as a young woman as well, I had standards according to society.
Yes.
And I am short, and I said, there's no way I'd ever marry a short guy. He has to be tall. And, well, I never thought about it dark and handsome part. But you have criteria that you put down based on what people expect. He must be able to take care of you financially. And when you're talking about take care, it means that you are to have ham and bacon on Sunday mornings and whatever else. And a lot of times, we don't even get to know the person. We don't know their potential. We don't know their character. We know nothing about them. And we judge them based on the physical feature only. And that is what society dictates. And people will say, if you're walking with somebody who looks good physically, they say, oh, you have a nice guy.
Yes.
But he could be the worst thing ever.
Yes.
And sometimes we need to just stop, actually get to know people, understand them, and see, as Sister Sherry said, how they complement us.
Yes.
And not only complimenting us, somebody that will accept the old me with my faults too.
Yes.
With my bad habits that nobody else is going to want to deal with. And until we get to that stage as women, where we learn to look beyond the physical and the financial, then we are going to continue having problems with relationships.
You said something that really is important. The person who is going to accept you for who you are. I remember long ago on an Oprah Winfrey program, she had said, every time, I don't know if in your days as young women, every time that you have a little relationship problem, you catch a piece of paper and you start write down what you like about him and what you don't like about him. And whichever one outweighs, that's when you're going to make a decision. So the bad things, there are 10, and the good things are 5. You say, you know what, I'm breaking up with him tomorrow. You know, sort of thing. But what Oprah pointed out, which was very good, was that it's not about what you like about him. It's what you don't like. Can I live with what I don't like? Because you will like what you like and can live with what you like.
Yes.
But what makes a decision for you is, boy, when this man belch loud, and when this man cussy and miserable, or whatever it is, boy, him not even, he might lick off the knife around the table and those are the things. You know what I mean? Him rubbing big belly when him finish eat, those are the stuff. Am I going to be able to sit down and really accept it? I don't think that a lot of women, in making their decisions, really sit down and understand, which is why it is important to get Christian principles when growing up, so that these things are open up to you from an early stage, so that, you know, you have so many teenage girls. This is why they go out and they find relationship, whether it is lacking in the home to educate them, but wherever they go, if you're not educated on these things, you find yourself in some real serious problems. You know? Yes, Sister Polly.
Yes, they always say love is blind, you know. So, at the outset, you really don't see some of these things, you know. It is when you have started the relationship, and if you have settled in the relationship, then some of these things start coming out.
Right.
You understand? Because, no, especially nowadays, people don't really get to know a person before they really start having this deep relationship. You know, there was a time when you'd have courtship and people would go through these long courtship, but you don't have that again. Even Christian persons in the church, you would have time of courtship, but now by the time you hear that these two people like each other, they get married.
Yes,
You understand? So you don't take any time to know the persons.
And knowing people, knowing what statistics have shown is that it takes about 12 to 18 months of courtship for you to have a good marriage, because before in that first 6 months, it's like you're on cloud nine.
all is well.
and for the first year, maybe everything is still fine. But after a year, when you have gotten used to this person, when they have become comfortable with you, so they can show their real colors, that's when you really need to know them, to accept and learn to say, well, I like this or I don't like this. I will live with this and I cannot live with this. So the period of courtship is very important in relationship.
I believe so. There's no time, I believe, that young women take and young men take to really know each other. But everything about them right now is sex. Sex, wanting to have sex, you know. And how do we turn our society from this? How we pray and we know that God can do mighty things through prayer. We go and we educate them, we talk to them, we do, and we see. You know, another thing though, how do you deal with a situation with a girl who from a young age start developing trust issue because of something that she saw her father did? You know, lots of them say, boy, I go in relationships early, or I don't want to go in a relationship too early because of what I saw my father did to my mother. There was even a case in a certain school here in St. Thomas where we have a lot of lesbian girls, and one of our very own sisters went out and she spoke to these girls, and she's saying, boy, why did you make this decision to become a lesbian? And she said that, miss, I don't want no man. I don't want one man. Because when me see my auntie man beat her, and me see my mother, my father treat my mother, and me see my sister get beat up from fear. But how do you help a child like that? What do you really say to a child like that? A girl like that? What do you say? This is not going to be so when from a young stage, this is how she has been broken down already. These are issues, you know, we're facing and we look at, you know, this girl that grew up and see her mother beating, her father beating her mother, or even a situation where the father carrying another woman in the house while the children were there. How do you help these young girls?
That one is tough. But the fact is, because people do it doesn't mean it is right. And if we're going by the principles of the Bible, we'll have to understand that even when we're broken emotionally, does not mean that going, if you're having a bad situation, doing something that is worse doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to say, well, I am not going to, because. And the other thing we have to learn, because very early in my life, I said I'd never get married. But the thing we have to learn is that every single human being is different. The man I marry is not my father. So I should not worry that he's going to treat me like my father. And a lot of times too, we cause situation to happen by the way we behave because of what we expect to happen. So we know that our fathers were bad men. So we decide that, oh, I'm not going to treat this man good because he's a typical man and he's going to be bad. And then he reacts in a negative way. And we have to think about things like these. People are individuals. They are socialized in different situations.
Right.
We are not going to find every person behaving negatively. So we have to say to these women, I'm sorry, but I can't.
Yes.
So they need to look at those role models.
Yes, this is where we as Christian women come in. To show them what the Bible says about that kind of lifestyle. And as Sister Denton rightly says, not all women suffer the same. You understand? We have other people who are decent and upstanding persons. You know, they might know just of the situation in their surrounding where they are, or this happened to their relatives. But there are a multitude of men out there who are not the same, and so this is where counseling comes in. This is where the church can help. When we find these people, we really bring them into counseling and show them that, listen man, this lifestyle is not right. And this is not the way to go, because that's not how God made the world to really run.
Do you think also that it is a mental thing? Because
I think so. Because of what they have seen.
Yes.
From
and
an
what
early,
they've
from an early age.
Yes.
So they have a kind of mental thing about it, that the same thing is going to happen to me. But it doesn't have to happen that way.
Well, I would think it is more, they're acting more on their emotions, because they're looking for security. They're looking for love and security, and the kind of relationship that's not going to be abusive. But you can also have abusive women. So even though it might be emotional, because we know we have women in the society that beat their men as well. It's not just the other way around. As I say, we go back to socialization. What do we do from childhood? And what do we do when we know these things are happening in our community? Do we turn a blind eye? Do we turn our backs and forget it? Oh, it's not me. Oh, it's Miss Jane over the fence again with the fighting and the carrying on. And what do we do about it? Do we say anything? And we're not saying that every time you hear the person, you must run in there because you might get killed.
Right.
But then maybe, just maybe, the person will listen. Maybe that man will listen. Maybe there's a situation there. And a lot of times men behave this way because they cannot cope. And we must look at financial, where the woman cannot provide for herself, so she's dependent on this man. And he cannot give her the things that he thinks she should have. And when she start making a fuss about it, or the children start bothering, and he does not know what to do, a lot of men do not know how to handle it, so they become abusive.
When I mention mental, let me expound. Because I had that experience, this is what the person is saying to themselves. Because I had that experience, so even if I get into a relationship, even when the man not do certain things, in your mind, you just believe. Remember, it's like you put up that barrier already. Yes. You believe that, listen, say I lie, Mattel. Say him no love me. Say You know, even
Yes.
if him come and just touch you like this,
Ye-
where I touch me suffer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
How we break away from that. That's it. I agree much with counseling. And I think the counseling should not be just a regular counseling. It should be a Christian
Yes.
counseling, so that you can bring the Bible and the Word of God
True.
into it. So to break any little negativity, any little confusion, whatever it is. Because I can go to a psychiatrist. I always watch programs, you know, and see the psychiatrist and them, and the psychiatrist look at the actions and say, boy, studies have shown. I always say to myself, I can pretend that the study is showing the thing that they said the
Yes,
study is showing. Really, I can just sit down and say, boy, they say I must act like that, so I just go and act like that, you know what I mean? And not you're not really digging up and going down to the core of what the problem is, so you can break it. And that is why I believe each counseling should come from a Christian standpoint, a biblical counseling, instead of just going and what studies show you with the rat versus the mouse and the, you know what I mean? We have a lot of that going on today. Let us just switch things for a while, where we look at single versus married. A single woman versus a married woman. A Christian single woman versus an unsaved single woman. A Christian married woman versus an unsaved married woman. The issues are the same, but we tend to deal with them differently depending on our statuses. You know, I'm a single Christian girl, so I will deal with the temptation, or hopefully deal with the temptation different from a girl who is single and not a Christian. You know, what are some of the issues as women? We have married women out there in the world. It is a beautiful thing, because it's ordained by God. But they tend to go have these issues. They might have an issue that you as a Christian married woman don't have. Or you might have had experience with the issue, but you're dealing with it differently. For example, you know, some married women may say, boy, you're married to me, so you're obligated. You are obligated as a man, you know, but how do we differentiate between obligation and control that women try to put in relationships, in their relationship? Meaning that because you are married to me, you must. How do and men sometimes feel like, you know, this woman is trying to control me. What is the difference between obligation and control in that, Sister Denton? You look like you want to answer this one for me.
Oh, all right. What is obligation in a relationship? And that's a very strong word, and it is a word that most of us don't like to use,
Yes.
because it says that I have no say, and you must do. And in relationships, there is nobody that must do. It is we discuss and decide, and we do not always have to agree, but we should come to a reasonable and comfortable decision that most of us can live with. And I don't like this thing about being obligated to people. You are there and they have no choice. They cannot turn to the left nor the right, because I am in control. So even when you know it is, I know not the way it should be done, or this is not the best way, you'll tell me that I must do it this way because you say that. That is control. And that's not good for a relationship, because people will not grow. And there's always going to be one person who is suppressing the other person emotionally and otherwise. And